What's up, guys? Welcome to Students of the Game, and I'm back here again with my man Jack Fire. Now, we have been doing a few lists today, and one list that came to heart and came to mind for me was the best players never to win the Ballon d'Or. Now, there's always this saying of, "Oh, how is he not winning Ballon d'Or? How is he not winning Ballon d'Or?" The fact of the matter is, not everyone can win a Ballon d'Or. There's so many great players that haven't won the Ballon d'Or, but we have picked. I've only got five players who I believe should have won a Ballon d'Or at a certain year, and that's what I'm going. But I don't know the way how Jack's going to do it. But I'm not just going to go off because he's great. He deserves to win it. So, yeah, Jack. Go ahead.
I mean, this is a hard question. First of all, before James even says the player, I just want everybody to put in the comments why this video is so important to James. I feel like it's quite obvious, but okay. We're gonna do a draft. We're gonna do a draft format again. So if James gets this question right, he gets the first pick. If he gets it wrong, I get the first pick. I've got 6 players just to make sure my draft is nice and full. There are 2 standout ones here for me, but then a couple of really hard ones. And I agree with James. Just because you're a great player does not mean that you deserve to win the Ballon d'Or. Ballon d'Or is a year-long award. You need to have a really good year. We're not going to give this. It's not an achievement award. It's not a lifetime achievement award. It's for the year that you play in. But anyway, without further ado, to determine the first pick, James, who were England's opponents in the quarter-final of the 2012 European Championships?
Of the 2012. 2012. Has to be Italy, right?
It does. Ding, 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 ding. So you get the first pick.
Is that not on the last 16 in the Euros, but just goes quarters, semis, finals? So I get the first pick. Okay. This is quite obvious if you know. This is quite obvious if you know who I am and you know how I feel about this player. But this is generally, to me, I think it's the biggest travesty in football that he never won it, going on not just the quality of the player, but going on the years he's had. My number one pick and the biggest travesty never to win a Ballon d'Or is Thierry Henry.
No way.
Now, Jack is saying, "Oh, no way." Of course, it's a joke, but I can go on and tell you how great of a footballer Thierry Henry is. But the Ballon d'Or is based on a calendar year on how good you were in a year of football. There was about 4 years when Henry was nominated in the top 3 on the Ballon d'Or, like top 5 to top 3 each year. The one became second one year, and I'm going to talk about the year. But between
I've got it quickly. Second in 2003, and he came third in 2006.
Yes. I'm mainly going to talk about the 2003 season. Now, he is the only player in Premier League history to score 20 goals and 20 assists in a Premier League season. Now, that is, to me, never heard of. And I think you go a long way to see that ever happen. Again, you have great players like De Bruyne who might put up similar numbers, but to be a 20-goal man a season plus put up 20 assists as a striker, I think is absolutely incredible. That same season, he also led France to the Confederations Cup. I don't know how you guys take into that, but to me, it's still an international trophy. He led them, scored the winning goal in the final against Cameroon. He lost to Paolo Nedved, who I take none away from Paolo Nedved. He had a great year, but if I remember straight, Juventus only made it to the Champions League final. They didn't win anything. And to say that he had.
Yeah, he was obviously just the standout though. He was ridiculous at that point. I do agree though. He's second on my list. To me, there's a clear 1 and 2. If you'd have taken the other person, I'd have taken Henry. Yeah, I think the thing that sucks for him in 2006 is it's the Italy won the World Cup. The 2 people who finished above him in 2006 were Cannavaro and Buffon, both of which were kind of these star players in this Italian World Cup team. So that went against them.
You mentioned that Henry was so close to having arguably one of the best years of all time. Scored 27 goals in the Premier League, won the top scorer list. played in the Champions League final, and I believe if he would have won the Champions League that year, he had a few chances to put it away. I feel like he definitely would have won that year. Also played in the World Cup final too. So again, with Henry, I think the reason why he never really won it was due to Arsenal's poor form in the Champions League. You know, every year kind of just not quite getting there. A team that should have won it didn't win it. I mean, that's the main reason why he probably didn't go on to win it. But me, the biggest
I also think looking more at 2006 than 2003, it was a really good opportunity for FIFA to give the award to either a goalkeeper or a centre back. You know, because of the defensive effort from Italy and you know the history of it and all that narrative that played into it. So Cannavaro or Buffon, I think, was kind of a shoo-in the moment they won it. And obviously, you know, the Cannavaro lifting the World Cup in that blue, you know, that really kind of deep blue kit.
The dance should have been listed, but okay.
but still. So with Thierry Henry off the board, my pick, again, this is the clear number 2, is Paolo Maldini. Paolo Maldini finished third in the Ballon d'Or voting twice. I'd also like to make a point that he came third in 1994. Then 9 years later, he came third in the Ballon d'Or. So he's maintained this level of consistency and ability of his play throughout that entire period of time. Yes, of course, I look at the fact that he has won and equaling with Ronaldo 5 European championships. And in any of those years, you can look at Maldini's contribution and very clearly see that he was arguably the biggest contributor. He played in a lot of good Milan teams, but for me, yet again, my best defender of all time, played at a very high level for a very long time, transitioned from fullback to centre-back, makes my all-time team 11 at centre-back. And to me, third in Ballon d'Or voting twice. He only needs 1 or 2 little things to go his way, and he wins the Ballon d'Or potentially twice. It's actually funny, he finished third behind Thierry Henry in 2003. It was the same year. So it's interesting that it's those two players.
I'm pretty sure AC Milan won the Champions League that year on penalty. Yeah, they won it on penalties. I'm just Shevchenko scored the winner at Old Trafford. So, yeah.
Thoughts on Maldini being my number 2?
Listen, what can I say about Maldini? We spoke about him previously. I look at him as being arguably the best left back in the world. You consider him to be a centre back. That's the greatness of the guy, that he can play in multiple positions and be so great. Could I make an argument that he deserves to win the Ballon d'Or? Of course, because to be at that level at that for that long, and especially to be a defender and to be considered in the Ballon d'Or voting, it shows you the quality he's had. Again, the hardest thing for Maldini is that he is a defender, and let's be honest, defenders don't really get the rub of the green in this. So Maldini, I think, is a clear, obvious show.
Who's your second round pick?
Second round pick. This is a hard one because I have a few ones right there, but I'm gonna go for Raul. Raul, 2001. Okay. Again, you look at Raul's career, very, very consistent career. Obviously, before Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi went absolute bonkers, he was the record goal scorer in the Champions League with 71 goals. Absolutely incredible. But the year I want to talk about is 2001 season. That season was given to, surprise, Michael freaking Owen. Now, guys, don't get it twisted. Michael Owen in 2001 was the wonder kid. You know, he was absolutely incredible. Liverpool went on to win the treble that year. People call it a small treble, but they did win three trophies that year: FA Cup, League Cup, and UEFA Cup. Yeah.
I just think it says a lot about Michael Owen that when you say he won the Ballon d'Or, people don't go, well, yeah, of course. People go, oh yeah, Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or. That reaction to me kind of says it all. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You know, he was absolutely incredible. Scored 24 goals that year, sensational. But I'm guessing the reason why he won it is because of the amount of trophies Liverpool won. But the exact same season that year, Raul scored 31 goals and was absolutely incredible for Real Madrid that year. You know, I'm pretty sure they went on to win the league that year. But just look at the body of work Raul gave us that year. He was just absolutely incredible. Not a lot of people's pick, to be fair, but to me, what he gave me that year, I think he definitely deserved to win the Ballon d'Or. Again, it's 50-50, but I would just go for Raul.
Yeah, I can't criticize that either. I've got to be honest, he didn't make my top 6 actually. But if I was doing maybe a top 10, I'm sure he'd be in there somewhere. And yeah, again, I can't I can't dispute anything that you've just said there, especially within that year and that time frame. Yeah, there's no reason why he probably shouldn't have won it. Shouldn't have won it that year. Yeah, lethal striker, committed.
Again, taking nothing away from Michael Owen. I'll probably come across him soon, and he'll be really happy with me. Again, he has a Ballon d'Or. You have it, so take it home. You deserve it.
He probably carries it around with him, but yeah. So moving on to my second round pick, I'm going with Bobby Moore, which I know might catch a couple people off guard. But one thing I looked at was players who were really close to winning a Ballon d'Or on multiple occasions, because that to me shows that, okay, it wasn't just a freak year. These are the best players to never win it. Bobby Moore was a top 5 finisher in the Ballon d'Or twice. I've got it here in '66 with the iconic photo of him holding up the World Cup for England. He came fourth behind number 1, who was Bobby Charlton. So yeah, again, that World Cup bias feeding in again to the Ballon d'Or winner there. But the kind of greater travesty in second, he finished. In 1970, he finished second. This was a kind of a one club man for large parts of his career. He kind of did a little bit of a tour come the end there. This is one of the best defenders this country has ever seen. Maybe not the world has ever seen, but he's definitely in the conversation for being one of the greatest centre-backs in the world. I think when Pele says that you're the greatest centre-back he ever played against, I think that probably gives you quite a lot of credit. And to be so close that many years in a row and never really move on to being a part of better teams, to win more English leagues or European competitions, or to go abroad and try yourself elsewhere, says a lot to who he was as a character. And the fact that he came that close twice, to me, that's my second round pick.
In this country, in England, when you talk about Bobby Moore to a lot of elderly people who've seen him play, they talk about him with so much high regard. Not just him as a football player, but his personality off the pitch too. Again, I'm looking at what he's done on a football field. Building a centre back, he is to a lot of people what a centre back should be.
Exactly.
He's tough tackling. He can win the ball in the air. Doesn't read the game really well. Doesn't dive in. Do you remember that brilliant tackle against Brazil? Was it Pele?
I think it was.
Pele run out one-on-one and just stood up the whole time, waited for his time and nipped in, took the ball. You talk about him as an all-round package. He's arguably the greatest defender in this country's ever seen. So Bobby Moore, I can't really argue about that.
So James, who's your third and final pick?
Third and final. To be honest, I got for you guys here. I'm going to put it in my honorable mentions, but I feel like goalkeepers don't really get that much of love. So I'm going to go for Gianluigi Buffon, 2006. Now, as a goalkeeper, to me, he's the greatest goalkeeper I've seen. For him to be consistent for over 20 years playing at the highest level, still playing at the highest level, he's chasing Champions League literally. But as a goalkeeper, he to me is a standard. For goalkeepers, 2006, Italy go on to win the World Cup, and he was just absolutely incredible. I remember that amazing save in the final he made against Zidane, where Zidane wins the header and like ball is going into the top corner and he claws it away. He didn't save a penalty in the shootout, but just his overall presence, overall performance that year was absolutely stunning. And it was literally a toss up between Cannavaro and Buffon. It could have went both ways. He finished second, but for me, what Gianluigi Buffon gave us that year was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. And like you said, I really do feel like it was probably a coin flip to decide between Cannavaro and Buffon for that 2006 Ballon d'Or, let alone the career he's had. I mean, my point at the beginning of this video was this isn't a lifetime achievement award. You need to do it over the course of that 1 year. The likes of, say, Philippe Lahm, I considered for this list and this draft, but was there 1 year where he was, particularly good, better than anybody else, and maybe didn't get the credit? Probably not. He's just been 8 out of 10 for a longer period of time. Buffon in that 2006 year, you could very easily make an argument that the reason why Italy even won the World Cup was thanks to Buffon.
You know, I think that whole back line was absolutely brilliant. If you take one piece out of it, yeah, you would have struggled. But him as a linchpin of that whole thing, orchestrating everything, talking from the back, was absolutely incredible. And even as a shot stopper, commanding the whole box, he's the greatest goalkeeper I've seen in like that year. I would have loved to see him win it because goalkeepers don't really get that recognition.
So for me, I've been, I think, lucky here. I have my number 1, my number 3, and now I get my number 4. So the only person you took from me was Henry, and I'm putting Andres Iniesta in there. Now, Andres Iniesta, and it's the same with a couple of our honourable mentions, I'm sure, but when you play in the era of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, you are at an immediate disadvantage because you never deserve to win the Ballon d'Or. You're against 2 people who are operating a few levels above you. But somebody who you can at least make the argument for being, you know, just underneath there, you know, chipping away, is Andres Iniesta. And I know many people might say Xavi, but for me, that 2010 year and that winning goal for Spain, that was 2010, wasn't it? I'm not getting this mixed up.
Yeah, it was 2010.
That on top of his performances for Barcelona, Andres Iniesta will always go down as one of these players who never quite got the credit they deserved because he played in teams and at a team that attracts stars like, you know, bees to honey. You know, you go from playing with Ronaldinho and then you play with somebody like Samuel Eto'o, Zlatan, Lionel Messi. You know, it's madness. Neymar. Andres Iniesta is one of the most talented players I think we've ever seen, and really would be close to being one of the poster boys for somebody who you were to say, hey, America, United States, listen to me. You don't have to be big, strong, and fast. Let me just show you some footage of Andres Iniesta playing football, and here's why.
Andres Iniesta, and to me, out of the 2, Xavi or Iniesta, he was to me the deserving one. Maybe you could make an argument for it. You know, yeah. I believe Andres Iniesta in the last 10 years has been the best midfielder I've seen. You know, yeah. his consistency levels to perform at the highest, biggest stages, biggest times, scores big goals. Yes, he is that. The argument I can make against that year simply was that he didn't do it enough. Now, did score in the World Cup final, scored the winning goal, the most important goal in Spanish history. Extra time. He had a great World Cup. My thing about this, he wasn't the best player in that World Cup for Spain. It was David Villa. I feel like if David Villa wasn't playing, Spain wouldn't have got into that whole thing. He scored 6 or 7, scored 5 to 6 goals that year. Yeah. I mean, in a World Cup and throughout that whole time, he just looked like he was that spark. Because remember, they lost the first game 1-0 to Switzerland, and the second game against Honduras, David Villa scored 2 amazing individual goals and really kind of stood out there. Again, Iniesta does score in the final and has a good performance. The reason why I can't really also give it to him is that you mentioned his performance in Barcelona. At that time, he was struggling. He was struggling, coping with the death of his friend. I can't remember his name.
Right.
He just died, Racing Santander. I should actually get that up.
I can try and find that while you're talking.
Because if you remember, like when he scored in the final, he took off his top and it was a tribute. It is Danny. You please help me research that. But
I'll find it.
But going back to that season, he played 42 games for Barcelona that season, scored 1 goal. Now again, we understand stats are the same. He isn't.
Danny Jacques, 26-year-old Espanyol defender, had a heart attack.
Yes, and even Iniesta will tell you that year it wasn't his finest year. Like struggling mentally to kind of cope with juggling football and like all that type of stuff. Struggling a lot with loss of his friend. It was even questions of him even going to that World Cup that year. That's the reason why I can't give it to him, because I feel like that whole season for Barcelona, he was good. He wasn't outstanding, and the World Cup he was very, very good. I don't think he was Messi standard that year. If you're gonna put someone in, I would have given it to David Villa ahead of him. But yeah.
Any other honourable mentions you had?
Yeah. I had a few there. I had Francesco Totti, 2001 also.
Yep.
Helped Roma win Serie A. 16 goals that season. As a player, exactly, as a playmaker, the only time Roma have won the league. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Another one I want to put in there is, to me, he doesn't get that much of a mention, but as performance from a goalkeeper, probably the best performance from a goalkeeper in a World Cup was Oliver Kahn, 2002. Now, Ronaldo won it that year, and I cannot go against Ronaldo. He scored 8 goals in the World Cup. That's the 8 or 9. Incredible. Came back from injury. Oliver Kahn's performance that year, if Germany would have won the final against Brazil, so it was literally a toss-up, he would have went on to win the Ballon d'Or that year. He was so good. That Germany team wasn't great. The only real standout player they had there by Oliver Kahn was a young Michael Ballack. He kept them in it throughout there, made so many tremendous saves, had a blunder in the final, but if they would have went on to win the final, he would have went on to win the Ballon d'Or.
My only other one that I can think of as an honourable mention, and this was the one before we started recording where I was like, oh, give me a second, I need to think about it. Frank Lampard, 2005. Now, I think you and I can both agree that, especially when we, if we were to ever do the best midfielder to ever grace the Premier League debate, one of my biggest comments would be, what do you have around you that can help you to succeed? You and I have known each other a little while now, and I like environment. A seed will grow if it has water, sunlight, and all the right kind of nutrition to help it grow. If you just kind of throw a seed on the concrete, it's not going to do a lot. Frank Lampard had a lot of help. He had the Special One in the Special One era. He had some serious players around him at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think we can disrespect Kaka and say that Kaka didn't deserve it that year.
Did Kaka win it that year, or was it Ronaldinho?
I think I'm getting lost. I think you're right. It was
Ronaldinho. It was Ronaldinho that year.
You're absolutely right. So, excuse me. I don't think we can take away from Ronaldinho. It's Ronaldinho. But anyway, going back to Lampard, the point being, Frank Lampard still, made hay while the sun shone, if you know what I mean. You don't get to become a midfielder with those kind of goal scoring records unless you can physically kick the ball into the goal. And that's something that Frank Lampard did, and especially over that time period was very, very strong.
I love that mention, because for a second was Frank Lampard that year. Third, and another one he could have definitely won that year, was Steven Gerrard. He came third that year, and you look at the year Liverpool had, that incredible fairy tale Champions League run. He was the heart and soul of it.
That's where I was getting confused, James. That's where I was getting confused, because they played Milan in the final in 2005, and I thought Kaka won it off the back of that. But I'm getting my years mixed up.
But yeah, just Steven Gerrard that year was absolutely incredible. It could have been a toss-up, literally. Ronaldinho had a great year also. Frank Lampard won the double with Chelsea, a record points tally with Chelsea that year, and obviously Steven Gerrard leading Liverpool to a champion, an average Liverpool side for the Champions League. So it could have went either way. Right. Istanbul, it was literally scoring scoring the goals to get them back in the game. Could have went either way.
Yeah, that was hard.
That was very hard. And one more I'm going to mention there is Feras Puskas. He never won.
Right. I saw him pop up when I was doing my research.
Which is a bit of a shock. I feel like with this whole discussion that we've had, we haven't mentioned players like Xavi, for instance, and all that type of stuff. My thing is this: just like what Jack mentioned, this is not a lifetime achievement award. This is a body of work throughout a year. That's why we have the years of this crazy span of Messi and Ronaldo winning for 10 straight years. I couldn't argue another player winning them over them. You could have Manuel Neuer, what's his name, Germany did go on to win the World Cup. I didn't feel Manuel Neuer was that outstanding that year. I feel like he was good, really, really good, but I don't feel like it was a Ballon d'Or worthy year. People argue about Frank Ribery's year when Bayern won a quadruple.
That gets brought up a lot.
That gets brought up a lot.
2013, I think, was that maybe?
In that whole calendar year, Frank Ribery scored like 22 goals in all competitions. Ronaldo scored like 66.
Yeah, exactly.
Ronaldo scored triple the amount of goals that Frank Ribery scored, and like we're still trying to create an argument of Frank Ribery deserves it. My thing with the Ballon d'Or is that it's not the best player on the best team. It's the best player overall that year. And does your team contribute and like does your team achievements contribute to you winning? Yes, it should. Yes, it should play a factor. But if someone's outstanding and done a lot more than you that season, which Ronaldo did, if you remember, he gave me that year one of a top 10 for me of the greatest live performances I've ever seen. Sweden versus Portugal, where he scored a hat trick. Absolutely stunning. He was so good in that game. FIFA went back and extended the voting period for the Ballon d'Or. That's how good of a performance that was.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think we were lucky enough to discuss it there just briefly to begin with. There's been a 10, now we're approaching kind of a 15-year period of the dominance of two people, and unfortunately, you can have your very best year, and it can be 22 goals, and your team can win the 4 titles. But if you score a third of the goals that another guy at Real Madrid has scored, you're not coming anywhere near it, pal.
And I can totally understand people's arguments, but my thing with the Ballon d'Or is that it is the best player. Nowadays it's becoming an individual award of achievements is over anything. That's why Modric won it. Taking none away from Modric, a great midfielder, but was he the outstanding player in a whole season? Was his body of work better than players like Ronaldo, Griezmann, and Mbappe that year? No.
Right. No, exactly. And I totally agree. And it's sad. Yet again, and we've actually done a video on this. I don't know if we ever actually released it, but yet again, it goes back to this whole idea. Are we ever going to do a football Hall of Fame? Because then we get to a point where, okay, you were not this star player for all of time, but the likes of Xavi, the likes of Philippe Lahm, these guys who are 8 out of 10s nearly every week, but are never 9 or 10 out of 10 for a whole year, they start to get their credit.
Basically, that's the thing with this whole thing. Hall of Fame in football, wherever you're the sport, especially in America, they love that type of stuff. These individual achievements, they love it. It's something that I believe should be brought into football to honor these great players who haven't really who've had a great amount of service throughout a long period of time, but never really got that big individual award that they deserve. That moment in the sun where it's them in front of a bunch of crowd clapping for them. I think that's something that we might need to consider later on.
It's also nice from a standpoint of I hope I'm saying this word correctly, posthumous awards as well, like after somebody's passed away, so that their family can give them the credit and representation that they deserve. But guys, thank you very, very much for watching, for listening. We've got a few other videos that we've put out recently. Go check those out. Let us know in the comments as well who won this draft. Is it James with his Thierry Henry, or is it me with my Maldini and company? Let us know.
Also, guys, you might not agree with Alice. You might have a bunch of players there who you believe should be in it. Maybe Dennis Bergkamp or Ruud Gullit. I think Ruud Gullit. Frank Rijkaard.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to put in there, comment down below. Let us know. I might have missed out on a few. Please let us know. Maybe Eric Cantona. Let us know. Comment down below.
Guys, thank you very much. We'll catch you next time.